We have entered a period that can best be described as a race for technological superiority against our adversaries who seek to sow division in the United States and weaken U.S. leadership. From U.S. businesses to the federal government to state and local governments, we are under cyber attack. We assess that Russia is likely to continue to pursue even more aggressive cyber attacks with the intent of degrading our democratic values and weakening our alliances. Russia perceives its past efforts as successful and views the 2018 U.S. midterm elections as a potential target. In the next year, we assess Russia will continue to use propaganda, social media, false flag personas, sympathetic spokesmen, and other means of influence to try to build on its wide range of disruptive operations.
Today, you started off by citing cyber as one of your major concerns, and particularly Russian encroachment in our elections. And we have asked other members of the intelligence community what's being done and haven't heard much about what's being done. It really begs the question, what are we doing?
Senator, there are ongoing discussions among a number of our agencies. It's a whole-of-government approach. I have discussed it personally with the President of the United States. He has said, I assume you're doing your job, all of you who head up these agencies relative to cyber, but if you need for me to say, direct you to do it, do it.
The discussions, I think, are ongoing. It's just the plan of action and the direction to take action seems to be missing.
Do you believe that this country today has an appropriate and clear policy with regard to cyber warfare?
No, I think that's a work in process.
We've heard testimony from a number of intelligence officials who have said that there is currently interference going on from Russia into our upcoming election cycle for 2018, and you haven't had any direction from the White House or the administration to respond to that. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't put it in that context. There obviously is concern about this ongoing effort of Russians to interfere with our elections. Much of what is being done or is being examined to be done would fall in a classified area.
Would you agree with me that Russia committed an act of war against the United States?
It's not a conventional war. It's a war of influence.
It's an attack on the United States that constituted an act of war. In fact, Russia itself described it as informational warfare.
I think it's the obligation of the Congress to determine whether or not something is an act of war against the United States.
You know, you look at the character of war that's changing and some of the technology, you literally have the capability to reach the globe with weapon systems. Cyber is a weapon system. In terms of looking at the context of the nature and the character of war, you know, we no longer have the Westphalian, everybody lines up on the border, 1648, right, and we come across. So the line of which you declare hostilities is extremely blurred. And if you were to ask Russia and China, do you think you're at some form of conflict with the U.S., I think behind closed doors, their answer would be yes. So it's hard to make that determination to definitively say, you know, what constitutes an act of war when you're in the gray zone in a lot of the areas that you operate.
My understanding is that Department of Homeland Security is working with the state elections people to make sure that the elections infrastructure are not will not be vulnerable to hacking by Russians. But who's responsible to counter the use of social media by Russians to conduct what they call informational warfare?
Well, as I said earlier, this is more of a whole of government. You know, one coherent strategy work between the executive branch and the congressional branch has not been put in place yet.
The 2018 elections are right around the corner. Why do we not have a whole of government strategy already in place?
Well, as I said, it is in process. The White House is actively engaged.
I think the conclusion is that this is not a top priority for the president. You're doing your very best to be very statesmanlike about it.